Guys and gals, how y'all doing out there today? For the longest time, I've wanted a good Rick Hinderer design knife, and I finally bought one. I could never afford a XM18. To be perfectly honest, those don't really even do it for me all that much. So I went to ZT, and I found this. This is the ZT-0562 slicer, or Hinderer slicer. This thing is beautiful. I knew it was coming in the mail today, and I heard a knock at the door. There was the postman. I literally ran to the front door like a little girl. I was just so happy to finally own a Rick Hinderer design knife, or at least a good Rick Hinderer design knife. So solid. It just screams ZT and Rick Hinderer. So happy with this. I've only had it for about half an hour, but I'm head over heels with this. But what did I do before that? Because, like I said, I always wanted a Hinderer knife. I just could never afford one. Well, I'd found out about these through YouTube, like I'm sure a lot of people do. This is the Kershaw Cryo 2. This is a Rick Hinderer design knife. If you look, you can even tell if it focuses. If it focuses, it's not going to focus. Actually says Hinderer on the blade. Really cool knife. A lot of little details from the Hinderer designs that were put into this knife, and thank you, Kershaw, for letting Rick do that, especially on a budget knife that costs about 35 bucks. About maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but just such a cool knife. Let's take a look at it. It does have a lanyard hole. It's actually a tubed lanyard hole, which is really cool. It's just put into one of the pillars. Nice little touch that I really appreciate. It has a good Kershaw pocket clip. This is actually one of my favorite pocket clips from them. It can do deep carry very well if it's mounted properly. If you look at the other side, it actually carries a little bit deeper if you have it tipped down, but I prefer tip up. And honestly, I don't mind the extra length sticking out of the pocket because I prefer something to grab onto. It actually has four-way positionable carry, which is awesome. Again, little details on a small little budget knife. Thank you, Kershaw. It has the Rick Hinderer lock bar stabilizer. That, if you don't know what it is, basically, if you got your lock bar, let's say, or the tang of your blade, and here's your lock bar. Let's do it this way. When it slides in, it locks in, and you push this bar out. Well, with the stabilizer, it only lets it push so far that it gives the knife clearance to close. I've handed my frame lock knife to someone before that didn't know what they were doing, and they didn't know about, or it didn't have the lock bar stabilizer. They pushed it out, bent it all the way out because they're stupid. And he watches my channel still, because we're still friends, but I did have to slap him. But he wrecked my knife. I said, dude, come on. I love the lock bar stabilizers just because of that experience. If I can get one, I will take one. Of course, standard frame lock type design. It is a speed safe knife with it does have a nice flipper on it, and it also has very nice thumb studs, surprisingly. Very usable. They're nice. They're terraced really nicely, and they're big enough, and you just get enough traction on it. They work really well. I'm just sliding out there, but also the flipper is nice and rounded off. It's not sharp. It doesn't hurt your finger. This knife is just a lot of win. That's all I can say. Has the big jimping that you see on like the 0560. It's honestly my grail knife, but they discontinued them, and I don't want to pay the way higher prices on the used market for some reason. But this knife hits on a lot of the Hinderer points, including this blade shape. If you see this blade and you cover this up, and let's say, you know, cover up the Kershaw logo, a lot of people say, oh, it's got to be like a Hinderer ZT. Nope. They went authentic with this, and I'm so glad that they did. Now, this actually has fairly thin blade stock. It's not overly thick, it's not overly thin, though. It's a really good thickness, and with this hollow grind that's actually on this thing slices amazingly, as long as you got it sharp. Which it being 8CR13 MOV, you got to sharpen a little bit more often. But oh well, that's why I do my own sharpening. But like I said, with the hollow grind, this thing goes through just about anything. I've used this this particular knife about 5 or 6 months now. Cardboard, paper, wood, rope, anything. This thing has really surprised me, and I'm sure it will surprise some of you, because a lot of you don't I've noticed a lot of people don't like the budget Kershaws, but some of these budget Kershaws are awesome. So, what do I think about this knife? It is just a bunch of win. It hits on a lot of the Hinderer points, like I said, that it just kind of scratches the itch. But eventually, I mean, I needed to have a little bit nicer one. Oh well. Let's just go through some size comparisons and we'll go to my final thoughts. This is the Benchmade Griptilian. These are both, actually, most of the knives I grabbed are a little bit more EDC sized than Tactical Blade, just because this really isn't a good Tactical Blade, with it being stainless steel slab along the side, and it's fairly smooth. It can be used as, for tactical, if you need to, but I wouldn't recommend this if you're going for a primary. But like I said, fairly similar blade length, and also fairly similar handle length. The nice thing, though, if you look at that thickness of the handle, womp womp. The Griptilian's always been a little bit chunky, but I love it. Then we'll go to one of the standards out there, the Spyderco Tenacious. Again, very similar blade lengths. This should be 3 1/4. I believe this should be right in the same ballpark, maybe technically a little bit longer on spec, but if you look at it, end of the frame to end of the frame, they're basically the same length. If you go for thickness, again, very similar, but the Tenacious is definitely a little bit thicker. And then another an American-made Kershaw, one of my favorites, the Kershaw Blur. Again, similar length of blade, similar length of handle. This is actually a little bit shorter than the length of handle, which, on this dimension, though, I always raved about how thin the Blur is. This is actually thinner, from what I can tell. That actually kind of blew my mind, just because I raved about just how thin this knife is. And then just one more, just because I have it out and I love it and I want to show it off, and I can't wait to review this knife. This is the 0562. This is a 3 1/2 inch blade. This should be 3 1/4, so it's going to have some difference there. It's going to have longer handle, obviously, as well, because longer blade. Thickness, though, this still wins. This is a big slab of titanium on this side. Yeah, just awesome. I can't wait. Like I said, this is a great knife, especially if you want all those Hinderer design features, but you don't want to pay. Like I said, that's $200. The only reason I could afford that knife is because I actually work for an Amazon warehouse and I get a 10% discount. So, woo! But if you're looking for something and you want something that's affordable, even if you don't want a good, a Hinderer design, this is a great knife. Like I said, it cuts very well. It's very sturdy. There's absolutely no movement in this knife. And I've never even had to Loctite the pivot at all in the 6 months. And I've gone pretty hard on this. I've even resharpened it. The 8CR13 MOV is as expected, but that's why you have your own sharpener. Like I said, if you like this design, go out and buy it. If you're looking for a gift, these are great. I don't know many knife people that wouldn't like to have one of these in their collection if they don't already have one. Obviously, if they're going for more high-end, they'll probably scoff at it, but these are a great knife. These are a great option, and it's just a bunch of win right here. Alright, thanks guys for watching. If you could, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know any other knives you think I would be interested in buying. I really do appreciate it when you guys do that. Sorry. Thanks guys. Take care.